All right, welcome back to the Scope Podcast. It's been a minute too, Connie. So
it's been a while.
Lukey asked me because we've been doing we've got two studios, as we say. That's the other studio behind you there. It's a little bit more relaxed, but I haven't done one of these in a while. We get to sit and chew the fat. But
I like it.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
No, pleasure.
As my headphones come knocking out. Is that still good? Yeah, I'll hit the intro.
Tell me what you need and need us. Go. Tell me what you want and want us. Go. Tell me what you call and call us. Go.
This is where I do my best work, baby. Shit. I love seeing the reaction of people when they come on. Have you met Volley K?
No.
Volley K is one of the boys that he's like I suppose I'd known him for years, but he jams down at some of the clubs like Bar 34. What's Little Jack Horner? Little Jack Horner was the main
Voice,
spot.
wasn't he?
Oh, and he's on The Voice too. Yeah, Volley was on The Voice, so he whipped that up for us. He's done one for us. It's a giggle. Hey, I like every time we play that. Yeah, everyone's like bouncing it. It's a scope. But let's start. I'll tell you. We talked a little bit before we jumped on. I've sort of seen your story for a minute. I remember the first time I seen you was on the Footy Show when you were like 15 or 16.
Claim to fame.
Just coming out of Australian schoolboys, bruh. So I remember thinking at the time, like I said, I found out that you were my age, and I was like, "Fuck, I hope I don't have to play this guy through the lower grades."
Mate, that was nuts. They flew me and my dad down from Dubbo after we played in I think I made like an under 15s Aussie side or something. And
the Merit Squad, eh? Is that what these are called?
Yeah. And they flew me and Dad down, which was it was all time. The old boy.
Is that cool?
Obviously
been we'll go back. Let's start back. So where you grew up? You grew up around Dubbo, Wellington.
Yeah, grew up on a farm about an hour and a half out of Dubbo. Closest place was probably Wellington to me. Or there's like a little town called Goulma, which was the pub, tennis court was the only thing in it.
Okay,
and that's where I went to school, and we had about 15 to 20 kids from kinder to year 12.
Yeah,
so I had like 3 people in my year. So I was first or third, bruh.
Yeah,
but no, that was
you're
mad.
On the podium, baby.
Yeah, I was
You're on the podium.
Always on there, bro. Always on there. But no, that was that's where I started. Always a footy fan, sporting fan. And then I started playing for like the Wello Cowboys, the OGs, and that was my weekends there. And then moved to Dubbo when I was about 12 or 13, and that's when I started to take footy a bit more serious. Yeah,
and we were speaking about like some other footy players that have come from there. You said some of the OGs, Andrew Ryan and whatnot, and Isaiah Yao. That's probably more prominent now at the moment.
Yeah,
he's about to play his first Origin.
Yeah, Yo's on fire, but he's like a typical sort of Dubbo boy, rough, tough, just gets it done. So. Yeah. Bobcat was the guy I looked up to. Yeah, because when I sort of come into Sydney, he was the man. Yeah, but yeah, we've got some good footy players out of Dubbo and Wello and all that. So
yeah, everyone's got that guy from the area. Like when you're younger, coming through, you played at your local area. Yeah, because I was lucky enough to have like Brad Fittler played at not too bad, eh? So when I was at Cambridge Park, like we've had him involved in Finchy's podcast and whatnot. Like he was my guy when I was coming through.
It's a pretty handy role model.
Yeah. So how did all the recruitment moving forward? Like I said, I think you were rolling off the back of that Australian merit side, and you end up going to King's School and getting recruited to the Dogs. How did that all come about?
Yeah, so when I was 15, I got a manager. So I think Gav Orr was my go-to.
Gav.
Gav, yeah. Tell a story, the Ori. So I did a thing. So I got one of the offers was to go with the Waratahs because I was playing rugby union as well. Okay. Or go with a rugby league team. So I was pretty lucky. I got like a dual scholarship, a dual contract. So the New South Wales Waratahs paid half and the Bulldogs paid the other half. So I had a choice between when I finished year 11 and 12, do I play rugby union or rugby league? So I was super lucky like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, you obviously like for people that don't know, like you were probably the best player in our age group coming through. So what was it like? Were you feeling the pressure? Obviously, being one of the better players in our age group, but also having rugby union pulling at you and rugby league pulling at you?
Yeah, I didn't really know much about like the rest of the other kids because I was obviously in the country area, so I only knew about the guys in the country. Yeah. So I didn't know who was who.
It's different in the city, bro. Like in the city, everyone plays against each other and everyone knows, like, especially if you make those squads. Like,
I realised that pretty quick when I came to Sydney about who's who and how it all works. But I think that I put more pressure on myself than what I would have felt off other people. That was just how I was as a kid, I guess. But yeah, I took things probably a bit too serious when I was little.
Yeah.
I thought I was I think, funny story. Like I remember when I was sitting down with my manager, and he was writing on a napkin at No Names restaurant in like Leichhardt or something.
Yeah.
And I was like 15, 16. He's
That's
like,
Gav again, eh? Like just around the corner from there, the old office.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, so he was writing out, like you're going to play 17s Origin team, and then you're going to make your debut here, play reserve grade here, then you're going to play New South Wales under 19s, then you're going to go into first grade and Origin. And like, I thought that's, when someone wrote it out on a napkin, I thought that's what I got to do. So I was just obsessed with playing junior Origin and then hopefully getting into first grade. And that's kind of when I got a bit of reality check with injuries and stuff like that. But
so did it start that early, or like the injury? Like, because we're going to get into it as we go through. But did you have major injuries back then when you were younger as well? Did you?
Yeah, my first one was when I was in year 12, and I ripped my the medial off the bone. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know much about recovery at the time because obviously I haven't been.
It's not like it is now too. It's like it's way better now.
Super different. So I was, I thought the sooner you get back, the better it is.
Yeah.
So if I could go back and change it, I'd definitely change how I approach injuries and all that sort of stuff because I had a pretty interesting run for a few years there.
Yeah, and just being in saying that you would have been way more relaxed with it all too, and not taking because all those things that you were naming, like playing in those junior squads and New South Wales 17s, like you were doing all those things too, weren't you? Like you were making all those teams.
Yeah, like I was kind of ticking the napkin off, like literally as I was going. But I was just obsessed with it. So it wasn't a fun thing for me at the time. It was kind of like something that, you can't fail at. Yeah. So I think that's where that sort of pressure from myself came. Like if you fail, you go back to the bush and everyone looks at you like, you didn't make it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was just from me. That was from nobody else. Yeah. But yeah, when then all the injuries started to come, and that's kind of when a few things changed and I had to sort of adapt. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And the decision to choose league over union during that period, was that a tough one? Or was that easy? Were you always going to pick?
It wasn't too hard. So it was in the Bulldogs' house, and there was like Nate Miles, there was Sonny Bill, Jonathan Thurston, Roy, Eddie Asatasi.
Fucking hell!
And I was like, this is a terrible house.
Yeah.
And that was when the boys won the GF. The Bulldogs.
Was that your first year at the Dogs in the junior level? That's when you moved there in 2004?
When they won the grand final, that was me coming out of year 12, and I was like, I'm going to the Bulldogs.
Fucking oath.
So I went there, and I think they're on Mad Monday for like 4 years afterwards.
Some of them are still on it. We can still catch up with Mason Rennie now. They're still going, bro.
Still going. It was hilarious. But that was awesome going to the Doggies and just getting that professionalism is probably what I wasn't used to. Like when I was going there during 11 and 12, I was hanging out with the players, but not to a full time extent. And then I went full time after that, and we had there were some cool players in that squad.
Yeah, man. Like just to name in that house that you live with.
Yeah, I know. Like just living in that house, and then we had like Hutch Mawava would cruise in, and
I remember Hutch.
Remember Jace Williams?
Yeah, like he's gangster. Didn't he have West Side written on his?
Yeah.
He was gangster as. I remember him.
My first experience was I was with my mum, and I walked into the Bulldogs house. I was like 15. And this fucking huge guy was sitting there just eating boiled eggs.
He's a scary.
And I look at this guy and go, "Oh, mum, what's doing?" And I was like, in my head, I was like, "I've got to eat more eggs, man." This guy's like, he's massive. And so like Matty Utai and Talau and there's like Tongs.
Tongs.
There was some OGs in that.
There's proper good names. Roll into those teams in the early because that was obviously so successful. Won that grand final, and then it sort of all fell away pretty quickly as well. And that one, they had, I've had Tongs and Benny Roberts talk about that period where, maybe when they come in, they were maybe partying too much and got carried away, and then they had a couple of tough years. So how long did you were you there from 2004 to?
I've had 2004 to about 2006, 7. So probably two or so years there. Yeah. I was I was playing like a fair bit of reserve grade, and I got to make my debut when I was like 18. So I was like, this is nuts against the Storm. But then there was a lot of injuries in the first grade squad, and guys were underperforming after the grand final. But it was a cool journey, but I look back and go, that was mad. But at the time I was like, a lot of pressure on myself, and wasn't too sure how to handle injuries and all that sort of stuff. Because I had some shockers when I was in that age. I had meant to get keyhole surgery on my, it meant to be a tear in my abdominal wall, and I woke up 30 staples, and then I had both of my abductors cut and sheathed, and then had my groin done.
Fucking
And then I
hell.
had my ankle done twice, and this was while I was still trying to play with all these little things. But yeah, I had a bit of a shocker there.
Yeah. Shit, baby, it's time to pay the bills. From our good friends at Flow State Coffee, Australian owned and manufactured, helping me get after the podcast, helping me get after a training too, baby. What's up? Say less, baby. What's good? Yeah, like I said, we'll move on to, finishing up pretty early because of all those injuries as well. But touching on how you talked about how your professionalism was like lead into it, ticking all these things off. What was it like then, like hanging around these boys and seeing that they could do both at an elite level? I always, we always muck around about like work hard, play hard mentality sort of thing. Yeah. And those boys they lived it. Like they were the Roosters boys and Bulldogs boys during that time. They were partying more than anyone because I remember being a young buck going out and seeing the boys, and that's how I've become close mates with Finchy, because he used to look after us when I was younger, and I used to see those boys partying all the time, but they were one and two on the ladder. So
I know that was great because you start to think it's the norm, especially for me. Like they were all my role models. So like when you go out and you hang out with those guys and like right, put you under the wing and they take you out and you're like right, I've got to do this, and then they wake up the next day and you got to go to training and. It was.
They go out and kill it on the training paddock, and then I
remember being under O'Mealy's wing. Like it was a pub out in the Southern Shire, and it was a weekday or something. And O'Mealy was like running around, and it was just a crazy time. But look at it, I thought it was normal then, and I don't think it would have been normal.
I think there's a few little different cultures. Like obviously, I played at Parramatta, and then my two clubs were Parramatta and Manly. And they were completely opposite, you know what I mean? So it just depends on what sort of era or what sort of culture you come
100%.
into. But then I'm sure there would have been some pretty more good times up in Gold Coast as well when you moved up there.
Yeah, well.
Moved up with one of my mates, Froggy, as well. I know you two were really close.
I thought it'd be like what they did, right? They got heaps of players in there that had like partners and kids and stuff, but there was about 4 of us that were single. And
Delaney, so who was that gang?
Me and Frog Dog, and there was I think Richie from the UK. There was just a few random young boys.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd be real smart. I moved my mum up there for 6 months.
Yeah.
After 6 months, I was like, Mum, you gotta go.
Yeah. I thought it was the opposite. I thought you moved up there, and after 6 months, Mum, you got to come.
No, it was Mum first, and then after 6 months, I was like, righto, I got this. Then I moved in with the big Dizzle, and Froggy Delaney. He's like the real modern version of Chopper Reed. That bloke.
He is,
legitimately.
Yeah.
If you look at him now, he's coaching a team in somewhere in Leeds, but he is literally Chopper Reed.
Have you spoke to him lately? He's seen the accent. The accent is so all over the shop at the moment.
He's so confused. He's quality, mate. He's so. I remember when they were asking us like, "What do you want to do when you retire?" And Froggy was like, "I want to work on the council with a lollipop," and he was dead set. Like, he was legit. But he's got a massive heart, mate. But he's. Some of the times we had on the Gold Coast, because when we first got there, it was obviously one team, one town.
Yep.
There was no.
Was it the first year? Were you there for the first year? Yeah.
The inaugural was like 2007 or something like that. But
you were pretty decent too, weren't you, for those first couple?
We
made the finals.
Made the finals a couple of times. Yeah, and we had a gun side like Princey and like Rat came back and
did Parramatta end up knocking you out to go into the finals? They did it. Yeah, I wasn't part of it, so I'm not bragging. I'm not. I'm not like that. I always play it down humble, baby. No, that was the year Hainsey was on that run. Did he knock you out on that run?
Yeah, they were on fire.
Fuck.
But no, that was the Gold Coast. There was some interesting times. But again, like I went there when it was very obviously the first team, and the professionalism from coming from the Bulldogs to a place where like sometimes we'd be training and there'd be no ice after training, and there'd be like the physio, there'd be one physio who's never done rugby league before.
Yep.
So we were you kind of had to start fresh in terms of your professionalism, but that's why we're lucky. We had like Luke Bailey and
Scotty Prince and that.
Yeah, Princey, who were really professional. So they and LaFranchi and all those sort of guys. So they
Eddie Rogers.
Yeah, the big.
Yes,
rat.
you had some good veterans, eh?
Oh, man, we had some good veterans.
The Rat, yeah.
The Rat.
I've heard some fucking grouse stories about him.
Went to Vegas with the Rat.
Yeah.
All time. Yeah. He's literally the king, that bloke.
Yeah.
No, but the Gold Coast was awesome, man.
Yeah.
It was the footy was good too.
Yeah.
The Gold Coast was awesome.
Yeah.
If I could go back, I'd probably keep my mum there, I think.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't.
Nah, just joking.
Moved on to the Roosters. Had another couple good years there as well. And ended up making the grand final.
Yeah, mate, the Roosters. It was a good one to come back to Sydney. I got a lifeline from the Roosters because things weren't going great for me in the Gold Coast, on and off the field. And then I came back to the Roosters, and we had a gun side in 2010, like Nate and Toddy and Friendy and Boydie was coming through, but. Braith, Mini, like it was awesome. And then I sort of learnt that really professional sort of culture. But at the same time, it was awesome year. And the same sort of thing with the Bulldogs. The year after was that sort of hangover effect where a lot of injuries and stuff like that. And I had a few more injuries. I had injuries through the Gold Coast. I'm not saying like it would have changed anything, but I definitely learnt to deal with injuries in probably the incorrect way. Yeah. Like just trying to mask it and just trying to play through it. And that was kind of the mentality that I learnt at the Bulldogs, was kind of like you don't say it, you just get it done. Yeah. So I probably carried that the wrong way, but in saying that, I wouldn't change anything for sure.
Yeah. Like you had some good years, obviously playing in that grand final. Is it so people don't understand this too about clubs when you have like you talked about the shocks of change of system. So you're at the Dogs, it's all professional, like it's a party hard sort of mentality. But then you go to Gold Coast and you've only got one physio, and then you go to the Roosters.
Definitely still party hard at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, so still partying, but like I'm talking about the professionalism of clubs and how like that has an effect on players, man. Like when you look back, and I put Cam Smith at the pinnacle, obviously, because of what he's done, but he's been in the one system the whole time.
Yeah, true.
And it's been such a professional system. Like having that stability helps out as well.
Because you sort of take it for granted when things are always accessible to you as a player, and people are checking in on you for different things. But then you when I went to the Gold Coast, it was kind of like, you got to get your own ice, and like I know that's a bit weird, but like even the strapping, like
it seems minimal, but when you're used to certain little things and training sessions are so hard, like.
Yeah, mate, it's definitely very different. But then coming back to the Roosters, it was just like, wow, whoa, this club it's crazy good. Like some of the facilities and then the operations, the staff, like it was unbelievable, man.
They're the big dogs, eh?
Big dogs.
What was Smitty like? I always hear some funny stories about Smitty.
Mate, I like Smitty. Yeah. He always didn't say that much and kind of expect you to know what he was thinking. Yeah. But Robbo was our assistant, and obviously I got on with Robbo really well. He definitely, like Smithy does as well, but Robbo does it really well and coached the person and the player at the same time. Yep. But man, in that 2010, like we're up to no good off the field. Like we had heaps of indiscrepancies and paper. Like I didn't realise that, right? So with the Roosters, if you do anything wrong, the paper just carves you
it's
up.
A different level, isn't it?
Oh, mate. There's
an expectation for the Roosters compared to every other club.
Yeah, I learned that pretty quick for sure.
So that was was 09 the tough year for them, and then you made the GF in 2010, and that's when like Toddy and all that went off the piss, and didn't you have a group thing where you just to stay? How'd you go with that?
When all the boys sort of went off the piss, like it's amazing what you can do, right? Make the grand final. Yeah, but that didn't stay. But no, we had an awesome I think it's just the culture. Like you need that sort of outlet. Yeah, and I think just different players didn't know how to handle that environment. So a lot of guys came to the eastern suburbs and Sydney itself, and different outlet. Like some guys have got families, some guys have got different friend circles. But when those players that have got the same friend circles and they don't really, they've got anything got in common, is like, we're single and it's got some free time. So
go for a beer.
It's a good thing.
So and then. On the back of that, you end up retiring at the Roosters. On the back, was it a spinal injury?
Yes.
In the end?
I was playing against, I remember it really clear, I was playing against the Gold Coast in 2011, late 2011. Yep. And I went into a tackle and I hit, I think it was Ashley Harrison's hip, and my whole chin like compressed to my chest. And I got the video of it, and I was knocked out, and there was no concussion rule at that time, so I packed back.
That didn't come in probably until like 16, 17,
so I was hobbling around, but I don't remember too much after the game. And then I remember getting. Did
you keep on playing?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. And then I got injections the next week in the back of my neck. It was like local and cortisone, and then I played for like 2 more weeks, and then I started to get insomnia. Yeah. I was getting nerve things in my arms and my legs, and I knew something wasn't great with insomnia. Like I couldn't train, couldn't focus. And then I went to see a specialist, and within like 48 hours I was in ICU, and the disc had toothpasted down the spine, and they had to go in and put the screws and the plates and take everything in and out, and sort of woke up. And I was in hospital, and because I'd been taking painkillers to play for so long, when I got out in hospital, I was in there for a week in just getting care. And I had the morphine button, and the guy's like, "Oh, when you feel a bit of pain, you just press this." And he came back like hours later, and he's like, "How are you still awake?" And I was like, "Oh, I can feel my neck still."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Mate, you've used all the morphine. Like it's unnatural." And mate, I was like properly addicted to painkillers without even knowing it, just playing through it.
Yeah.
And then the reason they found that out is because I started vomiting because I had so much morphine in my body. I vomited and it went into my lungs, and I had fast onset of pneumonia.
Fucking hell.
I was back in ICU, and the only reason I was alive is because my mum came and said goodbye, put cause she's an RN, and put her ear on my chest and said goodnight, and I was like making this terrible
She could hear you like choking a little bit.
Yeah, and she went and got the nurse because I was out, and she went and got the nurse, and then like it was within hours I was in ICU getting my lungs pumped out. So
far out.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So that was the end of that.
Yeah, and that's like you touched on a little bit with the prescription and drug, the painkillers and that. A lot of boys have gone through that with, obviously, especially when you have the injury toll that you did. Did you have anything wrong with your neck before that hit, or was that the first time you felt anything around?
No, that was the first time.
The first time.
Like my painkillers and prescriptions, it's in every sport.
Yeah.
It's just like everyone's got to stop talking about it in such a taboo way. Like it happens, and like everyday people can get addicted or dependent on it. So I think it's just, we've got to realise you can talk about it and put your hand up if you do feel like that. I think it's every sport, like the NFL, AFL, like it doesn't matter what sport, it can happen if you're human. So
no, for sure. I've known like one player in particular I was pretty close with at Parramatta. I won't name his name, but he went through a couple of knee surgeries and shoulder surgeries, and he was relying on steel knocks to get to bed because he just, he was having that during the period where where he had the injuries and he couldn't sleep because his knees were sore and his shoulders were sore. And then
100%.
When he retired, he struggled for about 6 to 12 months after it.
It's really hard. And that's where you sort of notice it. It's not so much when people are playing, it's when they stop playing. Yeah. And they're like,
why are you still taking it? People are like, why are you still taking it? Well, fuck.
Yeah, I know.
I've been smashing it for so long.
Yeah, 100%. And that's it's just so common. And it's sad to see, but it's just like, it should just be talked about, and it should be squashed by other people that recognise it, So, yeah, it's one of those things, mate. I'm always happy to talk about it because if it helps other people, then I'm happy with that. But it's an ugly thing. But when you're playing, you just don't know. You
just think it's normal.
Yeah, 100%.
You think it's normal in footy. And it's like you said. I think we're starting to talk about it more, especially when it comes to mental health and all those sorts of things. That's becoming more prevalent in the last 2 or 3 years. And people were willing to talk, especially footy players. Footy players are the worst. Before we had, a few suicides there for some of the younger kids that were coming through. I think we weren't having these conversations, but
scary,
I think it's important we do. Like that's why I like having, guests on that have had, some pretty good stories and can.
Yeah, because even when I was like a young kid, and I was in year 12 and I'd go into the Bulldogs and guys were taking like painkillers to play. And I was like, oh, well, that's what they do. That's what I got to do. So you just don't know until you talk. Obviously there's a lot more education and procedures around it. But yeah, it's just at that time there wasn't a great deal of people to talk to about it.
Yeah, I think in the back end of my career, I was finishing up in 15 and even playing over in the Super League, they're starting to test it a little bit more, just get some information, starting to figure out, are guys using it now? Like, are they getting out of injuries? And then now they're addicted to it and we need to help them out.
100%, yeah.
So it's good.
It's crazy.
Hopefully those conversations continue. So finishing up on footy stuff, you got into a bit of modelling, become a bit of a reality TV star as well.
Right, that was another world. Like,
that looked like some good times. Like I said, like I'd been following you for a minute and I was just thinking, I know Dan's finished and, through unfortunate circumstances, but he's killing it now.
I was super lucky how it all happened. I was working in a gym because I did my personal training certificates and all that sort of S&C stuff when I was playing.
Yeah.
I was working in a gym in Coogee, and this crazy looking pommies come in, and I was like, what's going on here? And the guy came up and said, oh, can I film you inviting the girls down to come and train? I was like, oh, I don't know who the girls are.
Yeah.
And he started filming it, and next minute I got invited to the house.
Yeah.
It was with the Geordie Shore house in
Yeah, so you didn't know who they were?
No
you had
idea.
no idea, you hadn't watched the show?
I was trying
That's
to,
even better.
Yeah. So I waltzed in there just looking like a huge meathead, and I was like, hey, going. It was just I sounded like a dairy. And I didn't understand a word they said, but yeah, it was good fun, mate. Jeez, they smashed the piss hard.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Funny story. There was a silent disco, and
They're always the best.
And at this Geordie Shore house, and I was like, "Can I bring someone?" They're like, "Oh, they got to be a part of the staff." Anyway, one of my mates, and we're good mates with Dukes, and we're like, "Oh, I'll bring these two guys, but just be careful when you film them," because Dukes was playing at the time.
Oh yeah.
So we got in there, and it was a silent disco, and we just went, right, let's go.
Yeah.
So like with typical guys, they G each other up.
Yeah.
And next minute, Dukes was like power spewing in the bathroom and on camera, and my mate was like like Holly, I think it was.
Yeah.
It just
I can't remember seeing that. So did it end up on the episode or not?
ended up there.
Did
You
it?
can see Dukes in the background.
Oh, can ya?
Like cross-eyed, like falling over. And he had to play the
how good.
He had to play I think it was that weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're in a WhatsApp group together. Me and him,
right.
we collect basketball cards. We call it the Card Gang. I can't wait to bring this up with him.
He was absolutely paralytic. It was good fun. But yeah, the Geordie Shore thing was it was one of those things that after footy I just sort of went with it.
Yeah,
and like that was the best advice I got was just go with the flow. Don't be too worried about what happens next. And so that happened. The Geordie Shore thing in Coogee, and I was on there for that season, and then that X on the beach thing popped up, and that was the phone call was, can you come to Spain? And I was like, oh, when?
Yeah, when?
They were like in 2 days.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, I've got to get someone to babysit my dog, and I was stressing out, and then I ended up just jumping on the plane and going to like Marbella.
Best.
Yeah, it was nuts.
And I've been to Marbella as well. Yeah, it's a good joint.
Proper nuts, eh? And we're in this huge villa. And it was like Big Brother, so there was camera crew everywhere. And once you go into the house, like you couldn't like look at the cameras. You just had to pretend it was all like Big Brother style.
Was that hard doing all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because they kind of mess with you. Like they don't feed you much food.
Yeah,
and don't feed you much food. You're in the sun all day, and these little pommy guys are super annoying. They're man, you know what I mean, man. It's like absolute parrots, but yeah, it was for 2 weeks, just flat out, and that was interesting. But like I was saying before we jumped on, I didn't realise how big it was.
Yeah, it's like living over in the UK now. I just spent 2 years over there, and it's next level. Like the Love Island, X on the Beach, all that Geordie Shore stuff. Like they're probably like the most popular people in the whole country. Like we've got Bachelor and a few of those shows here, and they do well. Married at First Sight, but. Yeah. Like they're the celebrities that everyone wants to get to all the parties and that. So
it's insane.
What was it like? Did you go on a few of those parties and that after, or
because after the X on the Beach, I went to stayed at Vicky's house with the parents.
Yeah,
that was super weird with the parents, and that was in Newcastle. And they took us out to a few spots, and mate, like I remember going down with the old man because he was like, "I'm going to take you to have a schooners." Oh no, what is it?
Pint,
yeah. And a pasty.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet, whatever that is." And we went down to this pub, and mate, people were coming in, and next minute when Vicky turned up, it was just like there was a swarm.
So did they recognise you to begin with as well? Because they knew
just from that time
from the show. Fuck, that's how popular it is.
That meathead with a dog on. And that was crazy hanging out in Newcastle and. Yeah, it was interesting.
It's a rough little town, Newcastle. Like it's good. I like it.
It's got a lot of history and some funny people.
And they can party from there too.
They can party.
It's been a couple of years. Went to Ibiza a couple of times while I was over there when I was playing footy over there.
Yeah.
If you ever ran into a Geordie, you knew you were in for a big night, eh?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got taught a few lessons over there. I wasn't up to standard, I think.
Yeah, how good.
Good fun, but
so what's happening now? What's going on with you? You've opened up your own sort of gym setup, like NFL sort of feel you're saying?
I've had a pretty amazing run with business after footy. Obviously, I jumped on and helped kick off with the F45 concept, and Rob Deutsch, one of my good mates, kicked that off, and I was lucky enough to come along for the ride. And then afterwards, working with Anytime and Orange Theory, and then I started another concept, and I've never had full ownership of it, so this time is actually ours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Done.
So we've got
Because I always assume that like because you were everywhere, bro. Like on the F45 stuff.
Yes, even like going around the world.
Yeah.
Opening F45s in like the most random place. Like
was that cool though?
Yeah, it was nuts. It was mad. Like Santa Monica, and then you're in like in Ohio, and then you're over in like London. Like it was awesome. Man. It's such a cool community. But that's the one thing I love was how you could build communities, and that's why I'm really passionate about doing this. And we just opened in Roselle.
Yeah,
it's called Combine Air Training, and if you see it, you'll recognise why it's called Combine Air. It's like a little bit like the Combine in the US.
Yeah,
so it's got
that's right up my alley. I love all that stuff.
Oh, mate, it's
we
right.
used to have the NFL jerseys and that on the Scope podcast.
It's absolute doozy. Like all the branding and logo is very much like it's like college football.
Yeah.
So it's gamified. It talks to people. You're not team training, you're squad training.
Yeah, okay.
We do everything in seasons. So you have 8-week seasons, pre-season.
I like that.
Kick-off, in-season, finals, and just teaching people. Because at altitude, right, not many people realise that altitude hasn't actually been commercially available. So it's actually the world first what we're doing.
Okay.
But like you talk to guys about what happens at altitude with training, and you increase your lean muscle by 11%, your anti-aging, your growth hormone.
It's fucking hard, man. I've had to do a couple of them before.
You have to come try it out. You love it.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking as you were talking about it, like we do a few challenges between me and one of the boys, Simi. So maybe we come and do like a little combine challenge in there or something.
Mate, it's doozy.
That'll be good, eh?
Because at the start of every season we have like combine testing.
Yeah.
So it's literally putting people through the paces, but at 3,500 meters, it's a different ball game. And we partner with Everlast, so there's boxing component too.
Yeah, how good.
And we had like some of the boys, the GWS boys, come in who were fit, right? Like AFL players, and mate, they were cooked. It's just awesome to see because
you did a number on the AFL boys. You're doing all right,
mate. They did great, but the thing is, after 4 to 6 sessions, you start to acclimatise, and then you just go through the roof. So it's good to see people understanding that you're going to get the jump. It's like a natural competitive advantage, really. So, no, it's cool, man. But like I was saying, I love doing all the franchising stuff because you can build awesome communities.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing I loved about footy, and that's the biggest thing I love about fitness, and that's why it's kind of cool to put it into a business model that sort of works with people. Yeah,
it's only like I only just finished up playing last year, and I enjoy just going down. One of my mates, because I live in Cronulla over that way.
Yeah.
And it's just about community in that, eh? Like 100%. Getting down there and being around once you get a good group of gang, like you get like 6 to 8, and you train together and you compete against each other. So
especially like for you, like you got that team background. So when you're around team, so get that team feel again. It's like it's addictive and people love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. That's fun, bro. So you're looking to franchise that too, and hopefully
we're kicking it off already. So we got Melbourne, Brisbane. A few more spots in Sydney to open in 2021.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got the second one opening in Concord in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. So hopefully I can get this thing and just ride it till the wheels fall off, man.
Yeah, that's going, brother. Well, thanks for coming on, sharing your story. Follow you on Instagram and whatnot, and follow the gym, and we'll get behind you. We'll come and do Sydney versus Scope challenge in the combine, eh?
Dragging you boys in
Let's
there.
do it, brother.
Legend.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, boy.